Good evening, guys. My name is Shay. Welcome to the Shay Show. I am so excited tonight. We get to talk with John Buultjens. If you guys have not tuned in to Amazon Prime and watched The Ride, you have missed out on a story of your life. There he is. Oh my goodness, there he is. I am so excited, y'all. I feel like a fangirl who is just meeting someone she knows. Hey, John!
Hey, Sha, how you doing?
I am doing so well. Thank you so much for agreeing to talk with me, dude.
Perfect. Thanks for having me. This is awesome. I love these live video feeds.
Me too. Like I literally, I want to tell everybody and tell on myself. I was stuck in traffic and I was like, mother. Like I've had time, I've had this time set aside. And of course, the moment I'm going to be talking with John Buultjens, am I pronouncing your last name correctly, Buultjens?
Oh,
That's all right.
Yes, it's perfect.
Awesome. So, John, I just want to tell everybody about the movie. Yes,
Yes,
I know,
please.
and I know that you have been talked out about this movie, but just on, I believe it was Sunday night, my husband and I sitting here, Mondays and Tuesdays, I just have off and I just get to do what I love, which is curate meaningful, impactful conversations with people around the world. And oh, I love it. I'm loving reading this stuff that's coming up. I can tell that some of your friends are here. Hey, and my husband and I were just watching, and I was like, oh, let's watch that movie, The Ride. I don't know what it's about. Listen, 5 minutes into it, I'm crying. My heart is just being tugged when I realize it is a real story, a story that's based on a true story. I love those kinds of stories. So then I'm captivated. I'm in it. I'm in it to win it, right? And then by the end, forget about it. You know what your movie did for me? It made me believe in people again.
Yeah.
That's what it did. It made me remember how beautiful human beings can be and are. So I want to tell you, thank you for living a life that was so rough and so hard, but so redemptive and so powerful, and sharing that life with us.
Thank you. Thank you for acknowledging me. That's amazing.
Yeah. And then I want to tell everybody, you better go and watch this movie. If you need to be lifted and remember that human beings have the capacity to be amazing, that's what you need to watch. Now, John, I want to dive in and get to know you, brother. And so this is one of the questions I was thinking about. Yep. I was listening to some of your other lives that you've done with yourself and just things that you've been saying out there. And I was like, man, I want to ask him this. One thing you said in something that I was listening to, and you said, everybody deserves to live the life they love. I want to know, that is real, and that's a beautiful thought. When did you figure out that you deserve to live a life that you loved? Because your upbringing shouldn't have taught you that.
Yeah. I mean, it did. It took years. I mean, I'm 48 now, and it was
looking good, 40s. John.
Well. But it was in my 40s, and I had a personal transformation. I was still carrying baggage around with me, still walking through that my mum rejected me, my mum abandoned me. And I was failing every single relationship. I have a failed marriage. I have I've never had a great relationship. I always feel like women are going to leave me, so I leave first.
Right.
Always looking for affirmation from everyone else but me. And it has to come from here first.
That's right.
So find the affirmation within each other, within ourselves. And so that's when it all started coming. I mean, until I found peace in myself, inner peace, none of this would have happened.
Absolutely.
The movie, the book, when I realized that life was bigger than just me, the whole world started to change around me. And it's still the same world, but I see it in a completely different way.
Yeah.
So I live the life I love. Definitely 100%.
Well, tell me a little bit about how'd you get to that realization? I understand it's true. Nothing can change on the outside unless you go in. We all know that. When you reach a certain, I think, space of the evolutionary, emotional, and spiritual process, you recognize that. You recognize that, look, this is your stuff. This is your story. This is your thing. What are you going to own and what are you going to do with it? We recognize that.
Totally.
But I'm always thinking about the soul. Who is the John Buultjens or the John Craig from way back when, who's in the middle of the deficit, you know, the middle of the loss, the middle of the broken. Yeah. I want that person who hears this, because most of my shows are watched a lot after the live, when they're just in perpetuity there. That's when I start getting all the messages. So I know that we have the power right now to create some magic that will live long and deep in people's hearts. So I want to know, what was it? Because I know that soul needs to know, what was it that sparked that change in you? What was it that made you start looking there, or made you, what was the thing that you started doing to kind of dig in that space and create healing?
Well, a few work colleagues actually with Harrow, that I'm the global brand manager for, this little company.
Yes, huge brand. I know. Y'all trying to hire me? No.
So, and my ex-girlfriend actually from Peru, Martita, they introduced me to the power of now.
Yes, by Eckhart Tolle.
Eckhart Tolle.
Yes.
And what just those words. You hear that?
Yes, I was like, I got that book.
Yeah. And so I don't read, but I listened to the Audible and I still have it on my phone. Mm-hmm. And it was just those words, the power of now. Yeah. Like living now, living in the moment. We can't change the past, but we can be here present in the moment, like I am with you right now. Yeah. And anything and everything is possible by being in the moment. And so that was a transformation right there. And then I did a program called Landmark.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you know what I'm saying?
I do. I know the Kool-Aid. That is some good Kool-Aid. I know it.
It is. It is. And it's all about, you know, this is all you have right now.
This is it.
So are you going to play the victim card? Because all you're doing is digging up all that meaning-making machine of all that past and making a meaning of it. Or when you leave it in the past, acknowledge it, leave it, be in the present moment, create the most amazing future for yourself and your life. And it didn't happen overnight. It took a long time, and I'm still transforming every single day.
Yes, and we will.
Yeah.
We'll keep transforming until the day we leave this earth.
Exactly. I mean, you want to be the best human being? Yes, get a coach. You know, we want to be the best athlete. Get a coach.
Right.
Use this more instead of this. Shut the...
It's so true. It's so true. If you want to, any other thing, isn't it strange that it took us so long to understand the concept of like life coaching or pivoting coaching or corporate coaching? Because I'm like, every area of our lives that we want to be excellent in, that we want to like triumph in and breach the top. Every single one, we have a coach. We have a training process. We have a whole thing that we go through. Yet our emotions and our soul seems to be the last thing that we realize, oh, I might need some coaching here too.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Like I was actually helping a friend out the other day, and she's actually watching. So
is she?
Yeah.
Hey, friend.
And it was all about, there's a way of like, you can either have a divorce.
That's right.
Or you can approach the situation by diffusing. So may I speak? Or you don't have to ask your husband if you need to speak, but there's a way of saying, well, you did this and you did that. Or would you like to hear how I feel?
Yes.
And the wall just drops down. The barriers drop down. And it's like, okay, I'm listening. It's like, well, we want to have a sexual relationship. Well, this is what I need from our relationship. Yeah. Maybe you pick up the kids next time. Yeah. Maybe you bring me breakfast in bed. Like little tiny little things that can save a marriage. I couldn't save my marriage, but hopefully by me sharing my mistakes can save another.
Yeah. And not just, you know, what I love hearing that is understanding everything you're saying is moving from the place of, okay, what can I own? What is mine? And what am I bringing to this space? So instead of accusing you and making you either the captain of my soul and the one who makes it happen or who doesn't, I can ask you, I love that question. Do you want to hear how I feel?
Yeah.
Or may I share with you how I feel?
May I share with you?
Yeah, this is how I feel. Yeah. I think a lot of things, dude, the moment you started doing this work, When did you start seeing the results? Because I love asking people that question. Like, when
Well,
did you start seeing things like, oh my God, this shit is real?
yeah. I mean, I did. So you speak up at Landmark, and there's 200 people.
Yes.
And I actually said something right now from this moment. The possibility I'm creating for myself in my life is turning Harrow back into a USA brand.
Mm-hmm.
Because we sold our company back in the 80s to Asia.
You
A
did?
lot of American companies have sold to Asia. I'm not your typical American, but
No, you got that badass Scottish accent. I love it.
when I took myself out of the equation and thought about America and bringing this back to American ownership, I had 3 people after I spoke come up to me and goes, "How much would it cost?" I said, "Probably between 20 and 50 million."
Mm-hmm.
And they handed me their business cards because it wasn't about me.
That's
It was
right.
it was bringing ownership back into this country.
Ooh,
And so, yeah, sadly, our owners in Asia don't want to sell because they love what I'm doing. But
right.
it was just, that was a moment that I just went, wow, I'm never going to have $50 million in my pocket.
Right.
But it was right there.
Right.
Access. And
Yeah.
it wasn't about the money.
Mm-hmm.
It was about transformation. And so we are the only ones that can stop ourselves.
We sure are. I want to tell a little bit about the story about why we're here right now. Because the truth is, you open up your mouth. Everything is possible. Everything
Yeah.
is possible. What I learned too is, if you don't tell people how they can help you,
Yeah.
they don't know how to help you. So
Yeah.
oftentimes the help you don't receive, it's not because people don't care and people won't do. People don't know the need is there.
Yeah.
And so ego is what keeps us from sharing what the need is because it's not about us, right? That's what you're saying.
Exactly.
It's something, and that's what every human being wants, don't we?
Yeah.
We want to know we're a part of something that's much bigger than us, because
Mm-hmm.
that thing, that bigger than us thing, makes us feel eternal.
Yep.
And that's a good thing. And so
100%.
when you give other people the opportunity to be a part of something that allows them to tap into that eternal like space of like, oh my God, I'm more than this body. I'm more than this mind. I will exist after this is not. It's a powerful thing. It's a
Yep.
powerful thing.
I mean,
So why you and I are here, I want to tell people why you and I are here is I watched this movie with my husband. We're sitting on the couch. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm crying. I'm moved. My heart is just touched so profoundly. I'm having a glass of red wine, and I was like, you know what? I bet you this man, if he's a part of Haro, he is on Instagram. He has got to be on Instagram. So I look you up, and then I send you probably, I mean, I want to know what you probably thought when you read this letter, but I send you this note like, dude, I have a show. I know I'm not a big name yet, but I will be. And I want to be a part of curating a wonderful conversation that impacts people with inspiration in their lives, because we need it. We need inspiration. And
mm-hmm.
you say to me, I reach out to this guy, y'all. I don't know John, and he's a big wig. I'm just a little Shay, right? And he responds to me. I wake up the next morning to a response from this guy that I just thought I was like reaching out into the ether. So I love the story of when you asked, when you told them how much money it would take, they're like, here's my card. I love that story because I want people to know the power of now and also the power of the ask.
Yeah.
I just asked you and you said
Exactly.
yes to me.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think when you got that that message from me?
Well, first of all, I was like, I want to fly to the Bahamas. But anyway.
I know. So do I. So do I. And we need to go to Exuma, Bahamas. We will go, John.
Yes, 100%. And I mean, that was it. Like, that's why I responded. I said, well, will this be different? Because I'm sick and tired of talking about myself all the time. I want to talk about you.
Right.
You know, I was going to say as well, like, you know, I had to acknowledge you. I acknowledge everyone that sends me a message.
You do.
It's a lot. The past couple of weeks, it's been over 3,800 messages on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter.
How are you doing that?
Personally, every single one. People can't believe it's me replying, but I'm replying to every single one.
You're amazing.
I mean, the people that have opened up to me, it's like, and told me their horrors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm very blessed that I could be this vessel. Chris Bridges, I actually spoke to Chris last week.
Did
And
you?
I'm like, Chris, what did you do? You've got 12.6 million followers. What do you do? And he goes, John, you're that shoulder right now for so many people. And
Yes.
you've already done your job. We did this movie. You've done the job. So them reaching out is them letting go.
It's
So
true.
you don't have to answer every good.
You don't. I was about to tell you. You
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
You don't
And
have to. And they're
but
not
if you,
even expecting you to. There's
yeah.
not even an expectation, but there is a kinship. You know,
Yeah.
in my life, my one of my superpowers is I make people feel seen and heard. And I make people feel safe with feeling seen and heard. And I take great pride in creating space like that. Well, sir, you telling your story, you allowing your story to be told, what it does is it gives other people permission to be seen and heard, permission to share this ugly, and permission to also believe, possibly, even if they can't fully acknowledge it right now, that they deserve to live a life they love.
Yeah.
They deserve it.
100%. And when someone gives you a compliment, don't say, oh no. Acknowledge that compliment. Don't reject that. Acknowledge the compliment and say thank you.
I'm working on that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I'm working on that with myself. It's in my journal.
Well, when I was a kid, if someone gave you at school or wherever and you got a compliment, it's like, well, you shouldn't accept that compliment first up. You should, oh, no.
Right.
No, accept it. Acknowledge them, because then that's you giving them the acknowledgement of that compliment. And it is so powerful.
It is. And, you know, to Maya Angelou would always say too, like, you know, playing small, and I'm totally paraphrasing it, but essentially playing small and not playing up to your greatness and kind of having a false humility. She goes, it doesn't give anybody anything. If someone tells you something, you don't have to pretend that you're not great at it. You can be like, thank you. There's power in acknowledging it on both sides.
100%.
So yes, I'm here because you said yes to me, and I'm here because I asked something that seemed really big and unattainable. So John, I was listening to another thing that you were talking about, one of your other lives, and you said something that was so like, oh my God, to my heart. You said there are more churches in the United States of America than there are children in the foster care system.
Yep.
Listen, talk to me about this, brother.
Yeah, I got shared. Someone sent me this post the other day, and it was a post of every single state. And then the amount of churches, like, I can't remember, maybe it was Atlanta, 3,800 churches, and there was only 1,600 kids looking for a foster home. And then it was all these churches, and it was like 2, if not 3 times the amount of churches to foster kids, or kids that are actually just looking for a home. I mean, it's so close to my heart, foster and adoption, as you know.
Yes.
I mean, like human trafficking right now, 80% of human trafficked kids are coming from the foster system.
Isn't that crazy?
Insane. So we're looking at, so what I was saying was, well, there's all this Christianity out here. Where are the Christians?
Dude.
Open your door.
Please.
You're taking a stray dog.
Right.
Well, this child, you can change this child's world, which is changing the world.
It is.
One human being at a time.
Absolutely.
We can change this world.
And, you know, my family, my husband and I, we have been actively having this conversation about adoption. And we've been having this conversation for easily over 10 years.
Wow.
And I kept, you know, and I want to say this is not making me look good. It's just making me look very human. I kept trying to wait for this perfect moment of when I thought that we could bring a child into our world, when we made enough money or whatever amount I had in my head, when our house was big enough, when we had enough beds, when we had enough whatever, when our world slowed down enough. And it dawned on me this very year, 2020, 2020 has come to teach us so many wonderful things, has she not? Yeah. And so it dawned on me in this year, when we are in the middle of a global pandemic. We have been quarantined on and off for, it feels like, since Jesus was an itty bitty baby. And my husband has chronic kidney disease. He has kidney failure. He had a kidney transplant. The kidney has succumbed. and he's back on dialysis. And it dawned on me in the middle of all of this, and our daughter turned 13 in the middle of this. I know she was really excited to turn 13 with her parents, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't go anywhere. 13, hey. No. All of this is happening in the world, in our world. I'm probably not the best wife. I'm probably not the best mom. All of this is happening. And what started really just beating on my heart probably like 3 months ago was, we need to adopt.
Yeah.
And this is now. We need to adopt in the middle of all of this. It's never going to get quiet. It's never going to be perfect. It's always going to look like a steamy, hot mess.
Mm-hmm.
And
100%.
but what I do know is we have a lot of love to give.
Yeah.
That's what I know.
Exactly. And stop looking at what's wrong and look at what's right.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you realize what actually is right in your life right now, it diminishes the fact of those little things that are wrong. You're never going to fix those little things that are wrong.
Right.
But you can amplify those things that are right and bring a beautiful child into your home. And it was actually, I did an interview this morning in Cardiff, which is in Wales, England.
Yes, Cardiff.
Nature or nurture.
Yes.
Right? That was one of the questions. And it is so powerful.
What do you think the answer is?
Well, I was telling them, I said, trading places.
Right?
And
we watch that movie every year, like probably 5 times.
Christmas movie. It was, exactly. That's exactly it. And The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yes.
Right? So you can take that child out of that rough past and give them this chance of opportunity and love. And this is living in the present moment, because this is what they have now. And acknowledge that child, that they are the chosen one.
Yeah,
because
I loved it when you said that. You said that early in one of your talks. You said, we are the chosen one. I was like, yes, you are. I loved it, brother. It hit my soul. It felt very powerful. And I wanted other kids, or now adults, who had gone through the adoption process to hear that and to feel the magnificence of being the chosen, being the chosen.
Exactly. I mean, it is more powerful than being rejected or abandoned.
Yeah.
To be chosen.
Yeah.
And I say this to all the foster and adoption agencies and everything I work with. It was like, let those kids know that you've won the golden ticket. You know, you've just gone to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. You've won the golden ticket. Like, you are the chosen one. That's
right. And what I love about this too, I'm taking it as a sign, is that fostering is a great modality to adoption. In our heads, I kept thinking I had to get this baby, and then they make it so expensive and very hard, and it's very convoluted. It's a very, and it was overwhelming for me. And I had too many other things. I was like, and I have a new friend who's come into my life, and she has 2 adopted children, and it came through the father. And she's the one who's encouraged. She's like, Shay, we had this conversation this summer. She's like, the foster care system, I'll help you navigate it. And she's all the way in New York, and she's already sending me information. And so you're talking to someone who is actively in the process, and who also understands that just how my life is not perfect for the people who were born in this family. Yeah. It's not going to be perfect for the people we bring in. So I don't have to wait for this moment. I don't have to wait for this arrival moment. But what we do have is we have love, and we can make a transformative difference. Well, I want to ask you a question about your process. Mm-hmm. Did you ever think that you would live the life you currently are living?
No, I mean, like going back to being John Craig and living, pretty much I was living on the streets from the age of 5 years old. So I never knew what adoption was. I never knew you could just be taken out of one family and put into the next. I never heard of America. I had never heard of Australia. So to then be fostered, and I don't know if your viewers know, but I grew up in a racist family.
I know.
And my adoptive father's black.
I know. Listen, I love that. I was like, that was one of my favorite scenes when he walked in. I was like, ooh, let's see what's going to happen here. Let me see what this is.
How good was Chris?
Listen, he was amazing. I know him as Ludacris. I listened to him all throughout my entire law school. Like his music was a part of the backdrop of my life.
Right.
And he occupied that space with such aplomb and such grace. I was like, look at, I said, look at Ludacris looking like a grown ass businessman, like looking so erudite and scholarly. We loved it. Yes, he was awesome.
Exactly. So I mean, and that's what made the whole project so powerful. Like with Chris, with Sasha Alexander, Shane Graham. I mean,
Oh my
they
God.
were coachable. They were all coachable. They wanted to know what Mariana was like, what Eldridge was like, what John was like.
And I
like,
love his name, Eldridge.
Eldridge, yes, Professor.
Professor Eldridge.
My father was a biological scientist, actually.
Was he?
Whereas we made him an engineer in the movie. Yeah. So my dad, and then when my father retired at 65, we went back to university and studied Egyptology and got a master's in Egyptology.
You come from great people.
Oh my God, yeah. I tell them, I acknowledge them every week. I mean, I FaceTime with them every week, and I try and see them as much as possible.
Where do they live?
In Scotland.
In Scotland. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So they're
So you didn't know that adoption even existed.
No.
You're living on the streets at the age of 5.
Yeah.
How does that soul move from that to even, let's get to the job of Haro? How do we do that? How do we get there?
So it was all to do with my passion. So in 1982, my mom and dad took me to see E.T., the movie, Steven Spielberg's blockbuster.
Yeah. You don't have to try to break it down. I know E.T. That's the movie. Touched us all.
So I saw bikes flying. I wanted to fly out
in front of the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to fly out of here, and I got into my new father took me to the BMX track. I was only 10 in the movie. I'm 16. They changed a couple of things in there, like they wanted to speed up how good I got on a bike, whereas realistically it took me 8 years, not 8 months.
Because you were good in that movie, boy.
Yeah. So so I was only 10 years old when I went to the track for the first time, and I've never been off a BMX since. I mean, I've got BMXs everywhere. They're in my office.
Show them to me.
Yeah.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Hey, why are the bikes so small? We were talking about that. Is it because that makes them more nimble?
More nimble. I mean, that's my road bike, so that's for road racing.
True.
But it makes them more nimble, easier, and because they're so compact, they're actually stronger as well.
Oh.
They can actually put up with a bigger beating.
I get that.
The wheel circumference is only 20 inches. So when you're banging it around, there's less flexibility, there's less.
Yes.
Whereas you got the bigger wheels, they're just thin little spokes.
Yeah.
So they'll actually buckle and bend a lot easier. So, but again, this was all started pretty much in the 60s with the old Schwinn Stingrays.
Right.
Went from that to then making the bikes, which I do now. I design and manufacture them all to make them almost indestructible. Because I'm all about safety first, you know. I've broken 28 bones, I've broken my neck, I've broken my back, smashed all my teeth out. They're not Scottish teeth.
Well, those are some beautiful teeth. That's a beautiful smile.
But it's all from passion. That's what it came down to. So that's the transformation in my life. When I found BMX, I found my passion in life.
I want people to hear that your passion was directly related to doors opening up for you in the lines of your passion. So you don't always have to know the end game. You don't always, what I love is just following that which you love and you feel calling you. That stuff is not by accident. That's stuff that you keep thinking about when you go to bed at night, and you keep thinking about when you wake up in the morning. That is not by chance. That is your destiny calling you.
Exactly. So it can be bikes, can be baseball, can be music.
Sure.
That passion in your life, and that is you living in the moment. I never knew growing up that this was my meditation.
Right.
But in my 40s, I realized that I have to be in the now. If I'm not riding my bike in the now, if I'm thinking of the future or the past, I'll crash. And I always say this like a parallel reference: crashing on the bike is crashing in life. So unless you're present, and that's it. I'm just drawn to it. I'm 49 in a couple of months, and I still ride a BMX bike. I still ride ramps. And all my friends are...
I heard that. You said you ride with a group of 600 BMX bikers.
We went out in Hollywood last Saturday night, and the news helicopter followed us down Hollywood Boulevard. And it was an illegal. It was actually an illegal ride. We did 26 miles from downtown Los Angeles to Hollywood, and it's a big ride. But yeah, and there was everyone from 6-year-old kids to 70-year-old parents, grandparents.
I mean, one thing when we were watching the movie, we were like, this is clearly a young man's sport because your body takes a beating. There's no way you could be like, I mean, at a certain point, someone has to go, you know what? I'm going to have to, I like BMX biking right up here, right?
Yeah.
Because how do you do it? I'm like, I see why you broke your back before. It's unbelievable the type of pressure your body is taking it, but it's a beautiful thing. I think what I loved about that, watching all of and I do watch it too in my own life before this movie.
Right.
Well, I love seeing all those acrobatics that they do on the bike. They do things that seem to defy possibility.
Yep.
And I think there's something powerful in actively allowing yourself to be a part of an action that defies possibility, that says to things that are always telling you it's impossible, it says to it, oh, maybe not. Maybe it is possible.
I mean, that was it. Like, one of my favorite things to do is ride up walls, vertical walls on a bicycle. And people go, that's defying gravity. You can't ride up a wall. And it was even in my old warehouse back in Scotland, this is about 30 years ago, I used to ride up this wall and I would go so high, I would go between the beams. And the beams on the roof would actually be skiffing past my ear. So I would like twist, so they would almost hit my shoulder. But I'd get that close, and I didn't understand physics back then, but it's the speed, the trajectory, the angle, everything to get that. And I could visualize it, so I could do it. And again, it's with life. If you can visualize it, create it, believe it, you will achieve it.
Oh my God, you are so exciting. I love it. Tell me this.
Yeah.
What keeps you up at night, Mr. Buultjens?
Honestly, I mean, every day is a new day. Thankfully, now I'm at peace. I can go to bed at 10 o'clock and I'm asleep by 10:05.
Love it.
The phone turns itself off. Like, great thing about all this new technology, you can actually switch it off so you're not disturbed.
Isn't that amazing?
You need rest.
You do.
I mean, I need my 8 hours sleep. But when I wake up in the morning, I'm normally waking up at 5:30, 5:45, and I always get up before the alarm goes off at 6. And I'm just like, okay, how am I going to take on this day powerfully? And so the first thing I do is I'm straight away getting through all the social media stuff, because with all the tagging, everything else, acknowledging everyone. Because yeah, like yourself, you woke up that morning with my message and you were lit up.
Listen, I was.
That's what I love to do to everyone every day, that I can acknowledge them at least, even if I just send them a love heart that I read your message. I come in here and I'm just buzzing, going, okay, I'm working on product for 2023 right now. Because
Are you really?
Because right now in our industry, it's taken so long to get product. I mean, we ordered product last week. So that was November 2020. It won't be here till February 2022.
Are you kidding?
No, it's taken 15 months right now to get product, bicycles made, because the demand is so great. It's something you can do right now. You can ride a bike, you can play a guitar, you can play football, whatever. Anything solo, we just can't stop. Anything. Yeah. So it does. It excites me every day that, okay, so what challenges are coming to me today, and what challenges am I going to knock out the field?
I heard you on one of your lives and you're like, look, I dropped out of school, or I got kicked out of school at the age of 14. So how does a kid who's out of school, out of formal education at the age of 14, learn what is necessary to perform your job, which takes into account physics, modalities that are beyond that educational level? How does that person become you, John?
Yep.
How do you learn the stuff you know?
Like, Word, Excel, like mathematics, equations, and it all came down to breaking bikes. So I'm like, okay, well, I've broken this. How do I fix it? And I've met a lot of mechanics and things like that will say, okay, well, how do I fix this? How do I make this work? How do I make it better? And so I started a couple of my own companies whilst I was living in Australia for 18 years. And so I was visiting China, Taiwan, Japan. I was always in Asia. And I was going over there, and yes, I'm dealing with engineers. I'm dealing with these professionals, but they had never dealt with many people in my field that had broken all these parts. So I was like,
Right.
well, what if you do this and you do this and you do that? And I started doing that about 20 years ago, educating them on this is what's not working. How about we do this? Maybe this will work or that'll work. And it was all from trial and error. But a lot of times they're trial and error on myself. I'm not giving people vaccines and going, okay, have a go, see if it works. I will test it myself before. You know what I'm saying?
What I hope people are hearing is there's a movie years ago that I watched with Anthony Hopkins. It's the one where he is a billionaire and he's married to, I believe, Elle Macpherson, and they fly out to Alaska and they're going on a fishing trip, and the little prop plane that they're on gets birds flying to the engine. The same thing that happened to Miracle on the Hudson, essentially, but it's a little prop plane, and it crashes in the middle of the Alaskan. And what he says in this movie, they now have to live. No one knows where they are. They're in the middle of this very harsh environment. But the thing that I never forgot, what Anthony Hopkins' character says in that movie, and he says it over and over again as if it's a mantra that declares itself to be true. And he says, what one man can do, another can do. What one man can do, another can do. And so what I want people to hear is, if John Buultjens can be 14 years old, raised in horrific environments, one that is meant to kill a spirit and a body. That's the type of environment you were raised in. That environment shouldn't have just killed you physically. It was meant to kill your spirit.
Yeah.
And that breaks my heart. I want to go back and hold little John and love on him.
Yeah, it's actually in my book. I write a letter to little John. At the end, last page, I write a letter to myself, young me. Which, yeah, that was, again, the publisher that recommended that. But yeah, it's you can be anything you want.
And I love that letter that you say in the end. You said, your life can change. Say it. Do you remember what you said?
Is that in the movie or the book? In
the book. In the end of the book, you write a little a note to yourself, and I also put it in the bio about you. You said that life can change very quickly, essentially.
Exactly.
At any moment, it can change. And I love the power in that. I know that was probably impossible for you to really believe it when you lived that moment and you were living in those moments. But what I hope people are hearing is if you can do what you have done, what one man can do, another can do. And if 100%. you can live the life that you love right now, that means that people who are in the middle of horrific details that we won't, there's some stories we won't ever know.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to know it is possible. It is yet possible for them to live a life that they love. You are not more special than they are.
No, 100%. And yeah, as you said, I mean, a lot of people have had so much worse. All I did was share a story and be a spokesperson for those that couldn't speak up. Mm. And since then, I've had women tell me they were being raped since they were 3 years old. I've had Marines, vets.
Doesn't that just bother you? That just bothers me.
I mean, it's like this horror goes on in this planet that we live in. But
humans can do some crazy things.
Yeah. But there's nothing wrong with you. There's something wrong with those people that committed those crimes.
That's right.
There's nothing wrong with you. You're beautiful. You're perfect the way you are. So don't let their actions dictate who you are today. Mm-hmm. Be here, be present, and create the most amazing future for yourself. Because this is it. We don't know the afterlife. We don't know what's next. Be here, be present, and honestly, love who you are. Acknowledge yourself in the mirror every morning. Say what's right about yourself. Stop saying what's wrong.
When did it start feeling normal for you to love yourself?
I mean, it was probably only 5 years ago. I always saw there was so many things wrong with me. Mm-hmm. And I stopped looking at what was right with me. But then I started looking at what was right. And I realized that by me sharing, I could inspire just one human being. It was worthwhile to be vulnerable and put it all out there. And I was scared to be vulnerable. That was a scary word.
Yeah. You were scared, rightfully so, because you had never been placed in a position, well, until you were adopted by, you know, your family who loves you, but you had never been safe. And those formative years are powerful. So you never felt the safety to be vulnerable because you already saw what humans can do to each other and what they can do to you. And life, it's so amazing how we are kind of wired. We're wired to preserve this life. So in defense of your soul that was unable to know that you were wonderful and beautiful and be able to share that vulnerability with others, you were trying to protect yourself. I get it.
Yeah. And I had ginger hair, so it wasn't very popular.
Ooh, why is that an issue? That is always very funny to me. I'm like, what is the thing about red hair? Like, I like it.
I mean, it was weird. I wouldn't call it racism against me.
No,
but,
I get it.
There was a lot of trouble. It's like, you know, it's, if you got red hair, you got no mates. That's what they say.
No mains?
No mates, friends. Mate, friend.
That is so weird because I've heard that about, you know, Prince Harry and his red hair. I was like, and the ginger. And I'm like, what? Why is that a thing? That is, humans, we're very interesting. We're very creative. We would go through all kind of creative steps to not like one another. Like when I was younger, I used to pray and believe, because I've experienced racism, and I used to be like, Lord, God, if you loved me, you would just make me white. If you loved me, you'd make me white. Because what I really wanted was just you to leave me alone and just for me to be able to live my life. And it dawned on me, I don't know, maybe in my late teens or early 20s, that the problem is, even if we were all the same race, it'd be like, ooh, look at those short people. Ooh, look at those tall people. Ooh, look at the fat people. Look at the skinny people. We'd find other ways to hate one another. And I was talking about this in an interview yesterday. And the reason why we will do that is because we're not taught absolute value. This is my theory that I'm working on. I feel that as human beings, we're not taught absolute value, that you are valuable because you are. Full stop. Just because you are. We're taught that you have value only as it relates to another. So therefore, in order for your value to be realized, you must have someone, when you enact a comparative analysis, who you stand above. That is how your value is derived. So as long as that modality that teaches you value is only predicated upon the comparison to another, and you're not taught absolute value, you will constantly and perniciously find someone to be better than.
Yep, 100%.
Isn't it crazy?
Oh my God, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never used like algebra. I've never used algebra.
Right.
Why couldn't I be taught to be a decent human being?
Right.
Just, hey, if you do this, or even just balance your checkbook. So me being a freak or me being Scottish, I've never paid interest in a credit card.
I love you. I love you.
But the silly things that we use daily,
Yeah.
why can't we use that? I actually had a school teacher from Oxford University reach out to me and said, we shouldn't be teaching Shakespeare at school. We should be teaching your book because it's real.
You know, you said that actually one of the things you said in one of your talks is you said, I wish that every movie would be of someone's life. Can you imagine if everybody's story was turned into a movie? Oh, what beauty that was.
Amazing, amazing.
Right?
I mean, yeah, and it's so sad to say, but my producer said, John, you're more likely to win the lottery than have a movie made about your life. That's how sad it is. More people every week win the lottery, but not every week there's a movie made about someone. And it's like everyone has an inspirational story. Everyone has a story.
Absolutely.
And
What are some of the magical steps that happened in your life? Some of those kismet moments that you now look at that led to a movie being made of your life? Because it is miraculous.
Yeah.
And you know what's even more miraculous? You're here. You're not dead. You are alive and have many more years in front of you to live more and more stories. So how did this happen, young man?
Yeah, it was actually a Hollywood producer Ali Afshar was into BMX bike riding in the 80s. And then I do these limited edition. I call them Gucci bikes. So there's only 400 for the world. And I do these bikes. And he saw this and he was like, oh my God, I remember this from 1984. So he phones up and goes, yo, this is Ali Afshar from Warner Brothers. Is there any chance I could get this bike from you? And this is how we met. He just saw my art. This is what I've now done. I've inspired people through bike riding. And we met through that. And he asked me how I got into bike riding. And I told him, well, at the age of 3, my dad threw me in a fire. At the age of 5, I was homeless, living in the streets. I grew up in this full white supremacist family that didn't like anyone who was different. I was locked up on the 24th of December, 1979. And 3 years later, I was fostered by a white mother and a black father.
I need you to understand, it's 1979 you were locked up, and you were born in 72. I need people to hear that.
Yeah, I was 7.
What the hell were we doing?
I was 7 because I was trying to protect my mum. My father was beating my mum up, and I ran in with a kitchen knife because I wanted to stop him hurting my mum. I didn't care if he hurt me anymore. I could take it, but my mum, women are the most powerful beings on this planet. You really are.
You're making me cry because that scene in the movie just breaks my heart. Like, he is coming down on the back of her neck like it is his job to kill her. And I know that he is played by you, which I didn't put together until until just like maybe after. I think maybe yesterday is when I put it together. Yeah.
I mean, you first hear my voice when I say, "What did she say?"
Yes.
That just echoes out of the screen. And then to become that person I had to be coached by that. There was 5 different women coaching me, including Christine Moore, who plays John's biological mother, who was on the phone as I was hitting her. She was coaching me. Sasha Alexander. I had acting coaches. Deborah was there, and it was so hard.
Where'd you go? Where'd you go in your soul to access that, brother?
I mean, it was crazy. I blacked out, actually. I had to dig into this demon that was in there, and I never knew it was there. But I really respect actors because, like, I mean, if you watch The Joker with Joaquin Phoenix, I mean, you see him transform into that Joker.
He does.
That is powerful.
Even his face, like his countenance. I was like, damn.
Yep.
You are there.
I wasn't prepared for that. I thought I could just put it on. But there ain't no putting on. If you want to be believable, you have to become that vicious person.
You do.
And it was so hard. It was so hard. But the girls in the room, my director, everyone was just belittling me. I mean, Christine was shouting at me so much, she was spitting in my face. And I had that full flip 180 to snap. And after so many cuts, we don't believe you, John. We got the scene, and I said, "Did you get it?" And my director's like, "Yeah, we got about 3 good ones." And I'm like, "Well, really? You put me through that 3 times?" I'm like, "Oh my God!" And that was a 10-hour day playing those scenes. It was like, it's draining.
I can only imagine it is draining because in order to become that person, you have to be very present in that person. And to be very present in such an awful, awful, awful human being, and a human being that you are connected to. Yeah. On a physical plane, but also this still was the family of your origin. And I can imagine, I know how pernicious those lies are that come to me. And I can imagine you being told many times by that voice. I call it that voice of dissension in your head that tells you that you are not enough and you are not anything special at all. And in fact, you are limited to be everything you see in the worst of those around you. So I can only imagine where you had to dive in to go and what the lies started saying to you after that. How are you tender to yourself and give yourself a reprieve and get kind of recentered after that?
I mean, I remember, afterwards, it was just this massive lift off me. It was almost a release as well. And I had so many amazing people around me that day. And everyone acknowledging me, reminding me who I am. Yes. And just hugging me and giving me so much love. And I managed to just realize, okay, that was a piece of history that I don't need to repeat again.
Ever, ever.
And young Alexander Davies plays the young John. So again, it's not 3D, it's real D. I mean,
Yes.
there's young me coming into me with a knife, and it's like, that was pretty scary as well, realizing that that poor child had to do anything to protect his mom.
I mean, it was just so much to me. I'm like, what your story does is, it's a story that reminds us all that what one man can do, another can do. It's a story that reminds us how amazing human beings are, our strength. I mean, like, you are so strong, so strong. And it's a strength that many people have and they don't realize it.
That's it.
I mean, you had to fight to live, just to live, to be in your right mind, because that's the type of childhood that would make you split your mind and come up with a whole other place to preserve yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So being around amazing, loving, caring people is definitely the change that we need. You know, you'll go into like a group therapy or whatever, and there's 20 people that are needing therapy, and there's only one positive person in that room. Sorry, but it's not going to work. You need 20 positive people in that room and not one negative person to have that effect on them, because it's a tough journey, but it all can be there. And just surround yourself by people you're inspired by.
Yes.
That's the way to get out of that vicious cycle.
John, what would you want the biggest takeaway from our conversation to be? Like, someone who's listening, what would you want them to take away and remember and hold in their heart?
Well, first of all, I think you're absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
I mean, you as a human being.
I felt that.
When I'm thinking of my past and how I was brought up, it's like I see the being in one another. And I want people to see each other for who they are. Love is from within. Beauty is from within. And now I actually see people's souls when I look in their eyes.
I know what you mean.
I get that all the time. People are like, oh my God, you read me. I was like, but it's right. It's all there. I can see it.
It's all there.
I'm not looking at all this. I'm looking right there.
Right there. And sometimes it's uncomfortable for people, because they've worked so hard, just like you did before, to not be vulnerable, because we're primed to protect ourselves, right? And so sometimes I do the same thing what you do, John. I'm telling you, it's my magic. It's my superpower. I will make you feel seen. I will make you feel heard. And sometimes that is disarming. It shakes people, because they're not, one, they weren't trying to be seen. And two, they're not sure what you're going to do when you see them.
Right. I mean, I was going to say, like, who said vulnerability was a weakness?
Right.
Vulnerability is actually the most powerful force that you can have.
Absolutely.
So
because vulnerability is how we connect, and vulnerability is the thing that gives us all permission to show up as we are.
Yeah. So that's a life you can love every day.
God, I love this. Okay, in closing, I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate your time. I know that you have a lot going on, so this is huge for you to take this time. I used to watch this show called Inside the Actors Studio with James Lipton. It was just like one of my favorite shows. So I love ending my interviews with in the spirit of James Lipton. So in the spirit of James Lipton, what sound or noise do you love?
Definitely trickling water.
I do too. I love anything about water. And that's an answer that I often get, either like the ocean or what. I love that. Trickling water, like a brook or ocean or anything.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's probably when it's now you're taking me somewhere that I haven't been, but it was moving into my new home, and we had gutters, and we had there was windows, and I could hear, I was safe when all that rain was on the outside, but I was actually safe. And so it's a safe feeling when I hear that trickling water.
That trickling water.
You just took me there. I've never spoken about that.
That water from above that's just trickling down.
And before, I remember living, so back in the 70s, playgrounds were pretty much like drainage pipes under the ground.
Right.
The big cone drainage pipes.
Yes.
And so we'd be hiding, and I'd be sleeping in there. And so the rain would be coming into the pipe because I'm sleeping in there. And so when the rain happened, and I was living with Marianne and Eldridge, and I could hear it trickling, but I was warm and cozy in the bed, my own bed. That's where it takes me.
That's where you just took me to. I appreciate you sharing that. I'm so sorry. I just really, you know, I think of a little kid sleeping in a drainage pipe, and there's no part of me that's all right with that. So thank you for sharing that. What sound or noise don't you love?
Yeah, crashing, banging, yeah, just that fear of the horrors of my father beating up. I just don't like that whole screaming and banging around.
Yeah,
it's a sound of, yeah, no child should hear, because
no.
it still carries into your adulthood, and no one needs to hear that. All they should be hearing is love and affection. I mean, my dad, every time I'm home, he still acknowledges my mum as his treasure. So,
can you say that again? He acknowledges your mom as his
treasure.
Isn't that beautiful?
He's always calling her treasure. Can I get you a cup of tea, treasure? Like, yeah.
I mean, is Eldridge like, he sounds like God. If there's anyone who I've learned about that really embodies what I feel is Jesus, the whole time I was like looking at Ludacris, looking at Chris Bridges, and being like, I say, I wouldn't have done that. I would have been, you know, like, I'd have been mad about the money. I'd have been mad about all those things. And yet all they gave you was grace and love. I thought to myself, where did those people sit in their soul to keep coming at that young man with a persistent love? A love that was like, we're not going anywhere. We're right here.
Well, that's it. Look at them. They were both interracial couple married in the 70s.
Which was bold.
Yeah. So it shows them how powerful. I mean, my mum, Sasha Alexander, was my mum on screen. Like, my mum was a nun, actually, when she left school. So she became a nun, and one of her friends that she did primary school, high school, then went to nunnery and everything. Jean Ann was in the room, and we showed the film to 200 of my closest friends and family. And she kept pinching herself, going, she's sitting next to Mariana, but she's looking at Sasha Alexander on the screen going, that is you. Like, that is so you. And so what you saw from Sasha and what you saw from Chris was my mum and dad, and Shane Graham. My mum and dad were like, we thought that was you. So
I mean, you were awful. You were awful. You were hard to love. That's why I want people to know, like, you were hard to love. Yeah. You know, it also encouraged our hearts as we're looking at the fostering process, and that we don't have to try to look for no perfect kid. Yeah. My husband just told me that he's like, is there just one stipulation? Can we not get a pregnant teenager? I was like, this is very specific.
That's a good
very
call. I agree.
Specific. And I was like, I appreciate that. I'm not sure even where that thought came from for you, but we'll work on not bringing home a pregnant teenager.
Yeah, I'm not ready to get a grandfather.
Right. That was his. So I thought it was kind of cute that was his stipulation.
That's brilliant.
Okay. Gosh, you say things and I'm like, I need to ask this question before I go to my last 3 James Lipton questions. When you tell the story of running to your father, one of your earliest memories is running to your biological father as he's coming home from work, and you're just super excited to see your dad, and he picks you up, throws you over his head and into a fire.
Yeah.
I need you to, what in the world? And you said your foot was burned?
So that's my first childhood memory. He actually sat down like this, and I hugged him from behind, and he grabbed me and threw me across his head into the fire. Didn't even look at me, just grabbed my shoulders, threw me across, and my foot was an electrical fire. So it's to the bars, but there was no guard on the bar, on the fire.
What's an electrical fire?
So if you look at stove or wherever, when it turns really red,
yes,
that's boiling hot.
Yeah.
So these bars, an electrical fire is like bars that they were the cheapest electricity heating you could buy.
Heating unit. Oh.
And they should have a guard over them.
Yes.
A guard to protect them.
I remember this now. Yeah.
Yeah, my foot landed straight in between two bars like this, and it just started melting. So, I mean, is your foot better today? It is. I had a skin graft and everything on it, and it's funny because I have 2 birthmarks because half of my birthmark is now in my foot as well. I can laugh about it, but it's because it happened to me. But yeah, I mean, that was my first childhood memory.
That's your first childhood memory.
I still remember the smell of burning flesh, and I still remember when they pulled the melting sock off my foot, and there's just this clear liquid pus as the skin just peeled off my foot. It wasn't bleeding, it was just clear pus.
And what is your father, what is your biological father doing at this point?
My biological father?
What was he doing?
At this point? Oh no, he just sat there. He was drunk. He just sat there. My mom grabbed me, and this was 1975. Now, in 1975, in Glasgow, there was about to be the second outbreak of the bubonic plague. 1975. Our area in Glasgow was infested by millions and millions of rats because the trash men hadn't come and picked up trash for 9 months. They went on strike. They went on strike. They weren't getting paid enough, so they all went on strike. So it was all over Scotland. But where we were, no one had cars, so you couldn't take your trash anywhere. No one was coming down to pick up the trash. So it was rat infested. And actually, Tommy Flanagan from Sons of Anarchy and Braveheart, Tommy Flanagan did a movie. It's called Rat Catcher. And it's about living in Glasgow in 1975 whilst this happened. So my mum had to grab me, take me out of the fire, get the sock and everything. It all came off because it was all melting into the fire. She ran down the stairs. So we were in it's called a close. Now, close is it's like the White Projects.
Yes.
We didn't even have toilets inside. You had to go out the back garden and go to use a communal toilet.
Are you kidding me?
Everybody would use, yeah. So it was pretty much, and this is in the 70s. It's not that long ago.
No, right. This is not terribly long ago.
No. So she had to then run through all this rat-infested, feces-filled water to get me to a bus to then take me up to the hospital to get my foot fixed. And it got a lot worse from that. I mean, my dad snapped my mum's arm when she was 8.5 months pregnant with a frying pan and poured the fat over her face.
Oh, Jesus.
There's a lot. That's in the book. I'm
going to read the book. Honestly, I'm going to order it off of Amazon because I know it will get here real quick.
Yeah. We couldn't do it. I didn't want people to be shocked by this film. I want you to be inspired, and hopefully you were at the end.
Oh,
this is the PG version.
No, you're very inspired, but you also, the level of the inspiration is directly proportionate. There's an inverse relationship to the level of pain and discomfort and tragedy. So it's because even though you didn't show it all, we sense it all. So that's why we're able to bounce into this big place of inspiration. We would not be able to bounce there. We wouldn't have been given the gift of the inspiration if you hadn't either shown or alluded to the deep, profound hurt. Gosh.
And can I say as well, we have to tell the viewers, there's a lot of good jokes in the film.
It's funny.
You're angry, you're sad, you're happy, you're laughing, you're angry again. Don't you think it's like a roller coaster?
Oh yeah, no, you're all of it. Like you absolutely laugh at. One of my favorite parts is when the swastika on the side of your neck, and your father says, Chris says to you, you think you should get another one for matching? Both sides.
The other side.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're like, what a smart little response, because you would think he's going to come at you from an angry place because you just said some bullshit to him. But instead of coming at you from an angry place, he actually takes this very ugly thing that's on the back of your neck in the film, and he turns it into a joke.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
I love the pillowcase. When he said, "Do you want to go to the skate park?" And he's like, "Well, do you want me to wear a mask or something?"
Right.
He goes, "Could you get a pillowcase and cut 2 holes out for your eyes?"
Right.
And
Right.
Chris is like, "That was clever, tasteful, and offensive." And it's
Yes,
like,
it was
and
great.
breaking down the whole racial barrier,
Or when
which I
he drops you
love.
off to school and you don't
Yeah.
want to be see, and he's like, "That's my son. That's my son."
You know,
Tell me where
Chris,
the PTA meeting is.
that's what, and Chris added that at the end. He ad-libbed that. That wasn't even in the script. I was like, so
Did he
we're all,
really?
yeah, we're all behind the camera trying not to laugh because Chris is just
Oh,
so funny. He can be
oh
so
my God.
serious, so funny, and just the way Sasha interacts with him, she just laps it up, and vice versa. Both of them were just brilliant together. With shock and like, "Are you embarrassed to be seen with my husband? You're a fool if you judge people by the color of their
That's
skin."
right. That's
Yeah,
right. Do you
and
see
it's
the
like,
joke that the person wrote there? The
yeah,
bologna sandwiches with no crust and crackers.
let's throw in some vanilla pudding.
Yeah, all of it. We're just gonna give you the classic white lunch. Are you all right with that one?
Yeah, I never knew what was it. Collard greens. I was like, are they
Collard
colored?
greens.
I didn't know what collard greens were.
Yes, it was the best because all of like the things your character were saying to him, they were just like these hackneyed tropes. It was like, okay, collard greens and fried chicken. Because racist people love coming at you like that. And I'm like, shut up. You know who loves fried chicken? Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody loves fried chicken. Everybody. Oh,
Oh,
oh
God. Yeah,
my
that was
God.
clever. That was clever script writing on some of those.
It was clever delivery too. It was
Yeah,
great.
definitely.
Okay. A couple other questions as we end. I know.
Okay.
Wine or whiskey?
Oh my God, grape or the grain, and
Yes.
that's what they say. Never mix grape in the grain. And
Huh?
I've mixed grape in the grain. I love Pinot Noir.
Yes.
I do love my Pinot Noir from Sonoma Valley.
Yes.
But I also love my Glenfiddich Scotch whiskey.
Ooh.
So
Glenfiddich.
Glenfiddich, yeah, and Macallan,
Glen.
two of my favorites. Glenfiddich, 12-year-old, Macallan, 12, also are really nice. But depends on the evening. If I'm entertaining, doing a dinner, I'll always have my Pinot Noir.
You
And
better invite me over.
here we go, right? So yeah, so honestly, I love both. But I try not mix them often because when you do mix the grape and the grain, you do black out. You do black out.
Ooh. Yeah, I
It's a
don't want the grape and the grain. Note to self, you black out with the grape and the grain. Noted.
Yeah,
Thank you so
never,
much, John.
never mix, never mix.
Never mix. John, what's your favorite word?
Oh wow! I mean, let me see now because there's so many, and it's just one word.
Yes.
Well,
Oh, you know what? How about this? Give me a word that you really love because it's sometimes very hard to come up with the definitive best.
I mean, my one word is love. It is.
Love.
It is. I mean, like I tell my male friends, I'll hug them and say, "I love you, bro." Like I'm not scared to tell men I love them.
You shouldn't be,
No.
and it's unfortunate that we create a society that doesn't allow men to show love to one another because we're so homophobic. That's
Yeah.
really what it comes down to. But truly, we all know we deeply, profoundly need love. And that's why, like a movie like Shawshank Redemption
Yeah.
is so delicious to everybody. Because truly, at the core of that, it's a love story. And it's a
Yeah.
love story between two men.
Yeah.
Heterosexual men, there's no sexual anything in it, but they love one another. Red loves Andy Dufresne. Andy Dufresne loves Red. That's what it is. It's a love story.
Yeah. Exactly. And
And we need it.
it's so true. I mean, don't be scared of it. I mean, I used to be scared. I actually used to be not scared, but I definitely wasn't into being friends with the gay community. And some of the most powerful men I have met are gay.
Yes.
And they don't want me. I'm straight. Like,
Ain't nobody interested. And that's the thing about it. I'm like, why does everybody think that every gay guy is trying to get with you? Like, do straight people, do we just walk into rooms and just because everybody is straight in the room, we assume that they want us? If that is your mentality, You're really messed up.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's kind of like when I was in boarding school. I'm from the Bahamas, but I sound like an American because I went to boarding school at a young age in America.
Right.
And when I was in prep school in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, all girls prep school, we would go to dances on the weekends and have, you know, like where we're introduced to boys, you know, of the same ilk. That's the idea. And there was always like only a handful of black girls at whatever school I attended, handful of black people. And every time we'd go to one of the dances, I remember this one time very clearly, with my friends, or they thought they were my friends. They loved me as much as they knew how to love me as a black girl. But they said things all the time that hurt my feelings. But what I learned is I had to pretend like it didn't hurt my feelings so that I didn't come off like I was uber sensitive and I didn't make them feel uncomfortable, which I now am at a stage in my life where I'm not interested in doing that. But I was, you know, 12, 13 years old. And I remember us walking in, you get all pretty for the dance. You're like, okay, sashay, shantae. And we walked in and there was this one, it's like all these guys. And there's this one black guy, like in the far corner. And my friend at the time, she goes, I see the perfect guy for you. And I was like, is that what we do? Do white people just walk in a room and go, you're white, I'm white, let's get together? No. Why is he the perfect guy for me? So it's the it's the same thing with the gay, straight. Like, hello, they like who they like, and everybody's not trying to be with you.
Exactly. Once I got over that, it was amazing. And I just thought it was because of what happened to me as a child. Then I'm worried, what, am I going to be gay? And I'm like, well, I don't find men attractive. Sorry, you know. Yeah,
because that has nothing to do with your sexuality. You know, it has nothing. It has to do with you being horribly, horribly mistreated. That's what it has to do with. Tell me this. If you weren't doing what you're doing right now, what would you do?
I would definitely be moving into working more about inspirational speaking, working more with foster adoption, like letting every human being know that you are special to this planet.
Yes.
And I'm 50 in 15 months. And honestly, that's where I'm moving towards.
Yes.
I see that I can be a spokesman for many people.
Yes, you can, brother.
If I just inspire one human being, then it was worth it. So I love my bikes. I love everything. But I believe I was saved for a higher purpose.
Absolutely. You were, and you are. Tell me this. What's your favorite curse word?
A favorite curse word? Well, right now, the worst word is COVID. But I'm like, don't even say the C word in front of me.
Don't even say that C word.
I mean, honestly, like, Billy Connolly says it perfectly. Do you know Billy Connolly?
I don't know. No, who is he?
Billy Connolly is a Scottish comedian. And the best, wherever you are in the world, he says, fuck off. And no matter where you are, you know what that means. No matter if you can speak English or not, everyone knows what fuck off means.
It does. Back up, brother. I love it. It's a good one. I will look him up. I think I have seen him on YouTube though, but I think I'm gonna go and look him up after this.
He actually did an amazing movie before I go. He did an amazing movie, and it's called The Man Who Sued God.
The Man Who Sued God. Note that, honey. I'm telling my husband.
And it's made in America.
The Man Who Sued God.
Basically, he's traveling the world. He's got this yacht, and it gets hit by lightning. It's a true story. I think it was in the Florida Keys. He got hit by lightning, and he had to take the church to court because insurance wouldn't cover it because it said it was an act of God. So he took the church to court, and they had to prove that God existed. Otherwise, they had to buy him a new boat. And now all insurance, look at the paperwork in insurance. It's an act of nature. It doesn't say act of God anymore. And it was because of this.
Get out. I do know that change.
Yeah.
The Man Who Sued God. Okay, done.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's funny.
Do you think it's on Netflix or Amazon Prime? Do you think it's on?
I don't know. I've got it on that old school thing called DVD. But definitely search it. It's online. It's online somewhere.
Listen, it's on the line. How about? Did you ever watch the movie The Intern with internship with Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson. It's on the line.
Jennifer Aniston?
No, this one is where Vince Vaughn and
I remember the internship. I remember the internship.
so they
like
get they lose their job and they get basically interns at they become like 40-something-year-old interns at Google, and everybody else is like 19 and 20. You know, and they always they have all the old language. They're like, yeah, you put it on the line. They're like, it's online. No, you put it on the line.
Yes, I totally remember it.
It's so funny. You just remind me of that where you're like, yeah, you know, I got that thing called the DB. Here is my last question to you.
Okay.
If heaven exists, what do you want God to say when you get there?
Thank you.
That is so beautiful.
Where'd that come from?
Woo. That was beautiful. I appreciate you sharing that, and you will indeed hear thank you. And I want to tell it to you right now. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on. It's been great. It really has.
Keep in touch. Amazing. You're fantastic. Thank you for sharing time and space with me. Thank you for doing what you're doing in the world. It makes a difference. Thank you for encouraging us all that our lives are so deeply meaningful.
Yes, they are. I'll speak to you soon.
Yes, you will. Bye, brother. I love you.
Love you.